Spring 1875, Cottonwood Springs, Wyoming Territory. The wind whispered through the newly bloomed cottonwoods as Amanda Grayson made her way down the dusty Main Street, clutching her basket of freshly baked goods. At 22, Amanda was the most skilled baker in 3 counties, but that talent was rarely what people noticed first about her. She kept her eyes down as she passed the group of women outside the general store, their whispers following her like a shadow. Land sakes, she must eat half of what she bakes. Shame about her figure, such a pretty face. No wonder she's still unmarried. Amanda's cheeks burned, but she squared her shoulders and continued walking, her pale blue dress swaying around her ample curves. Her thick chestnut hair was neatly pinned beneath her bonnet, framing a face with deep brown eyes that held both warmth and wariness. She had learned long ago that in Cottonwood Springs, her worth was measured in inches around her waist, not the goodness in her heart or the skill in her hands. She believed what everyone told her, that no man would ever court a woman of her size, that she was destined to remain alone, that her talents in the kitchen had cursed her to a life of solitude. Amanda had accepted this as truth, building walls around her heart as sturdy as the Rockies in the distance. What she wanted was simple enough, to be left in peace to run the bakery she had inherited from her mother. What she needed, though she would never admit it even to herself, was to be seen for who she truly was. Across town, Dustin Sutherland stepped off the stage, his lean frame unfolding as he stretched the stiffness from his muscles. At 25, he had the weathered competence of a man who had spent his life under open skies. His sandy blonde hair caught the sunlight, and his eyes, the clear blue of a mountain lake, took in the town with careful assessment. Though his face was handsome, high cheekbones, straight nose, and a square jaw with just a hint of stubble, it was the quiet confidence in his movements that drew second glances. Dustin had spent the past 7 years working cattle drives from Texas to Montana, saving every penny toward his dream of owning his own ranch. Now he had come to Wyoming with enough money to make a start, convinced that a man needed nothing but good land and hard work to build a life. Love and family were complications that got in the way of survival in the untamed West. He had seen too many men broken by loss, too many graves of wives and children who couldn't withstand frontier hardships. A man's best company is his horse and his rifle, his father had told him before consumption took him when Dustin was 17. It was a lesson Dustin carried close, believing that attachment meant vulnerability, and vulnerability meant death in a land that forgave no weakness. As he stepped into the town's only hotel to secure lodging, Dustin had no idea that his most deeply held beliefs were about to be challenged in ways he could never imagine. The next morning, Dustin woke before dawn, his body still on cowhand time despite the soft hotel bed. He dressed quickly and headed out, determined to learn about available land near Cottonwood Springs. But first he needed breakfast, and the smell of fresh bread pulled him toward a small shop with Grayson's Bakery painted in neat lettering above the door. A bell chimed as he entered, and the warm aroma of cinnamon and baking bread enveloped him. The shop was empty of customers this early, but behind the counter stood a young woman, her back to him as she arranged pastries on a tray. Her chestnut hair was gathered at the nape of her neck, and her figure, draped in a simple green dress, was softly rounded in a way that reminded Dustin of the rolling hills of eastern Kansas. "Good morning," he called. Amanda turned, startled by the unfamiliar voice. A stranger stood in her bakery, tall, lean, and undeniably handsome. Her hands instinctively moved to smooth her apron, a nervous habit whenever she felt eyes upon her. "Good morning, sir," she replied, her voice steady despite her sudden self-consciousness. "What can I get for you today?" Dustin approached the counter, taking in the array of baked goods. "I'm new in town, just arrived yesterday. What would you recommend to a hungry man who hasn't had a proper meal in 3 days?" Amanda smiled, momentarily forgetting her usual guardedness. The cinnamon rolls just came out of the oven. "And I have sourdough bread that folks say is the best this side of San Francisco." "I'll take both and coffee if you have it," Dustin said, returning her smile. As Amanda turned to prepare his order, he noticed how gracefully she moved despite her size, her hands quick and sure as they wrapped the bread and selected the largest cinnamon roll. "You're not from around here," Amanda observed as she poured coffee into a thick mug, not a question but a statement. "No, ma'am," Dustin Sutherland, lately of nowhere in particular. "I've been following cattle trails for years, but I'm looking to put down roots. Heard Wyoming Territory has land with promise." Amanda set his breakfast before him. Amanda Grayson. My family's been in Cottonwood Springs since before it had a name. She hesitated, then added, if you're looking for land, you might speak with Mr. Bennett at the land office. He's fair, unlike some. Their fingers brushed as Dustin handed her the money, and something unexpected passed between them, a moment of connection that caught them both by surprise. Amanda withdrew her hand quickly, her cheeks coloring. Thank you, Miss Grayson, for the recommendation and the breakfast. Dustin took his first bite of the cinnamon roll and couldn't suppress a sound of appreciation. This is extraordinary. It's nothing special, Amanda demurred, though pleasure flickered in her eyes. I've eaten from chuck wagons across half the Western Territories, and I've never tasted anything like this, he insisted. Before Amanda could respond, the bell above the door chimed again, and 3 women entered, the same ones who had whispered about her the day before. Their conversation halted abruptly as they saw Dustin, and their eyes darted between him and Amanda with undisguised curiosity. Good morning, ladies, Amanda said, her voice cooler than it had been moments before. The usual for each of you. As Amanda served the women, Dustin noticed how her shoulders tensed, how her earlier warmth disappeared behind a mask of professional politeness. The women made no effort to lower their voices as they commented on the weather, the upcoming church social, and pointedly, how they were watching their figures, unlike some people. Dustin finished his breakfast slowly, watching as Amanda endured the barbed comments with dignity. When the women left, taking their purchases and their venom with them, he approached the counter again. Is there a boarding house in town you'd recommend? He asked. The hotel's fine for a night or two, but I'll need something more permanent while I look for land. Amanda seemed surprised that he was still there. Mrs. Wilson runs a clean place 3 doors down from the bank. Tell her I sent you, and she'll give you her best room. Much obliged, Miss Grayson. Dustin tipped his hat. I expect I'll be back tomorrow. A man could get used to starting his day with bread like yours. After he left, Amanda stood motionless behind her counter. In 7 years of running the bakery, no man had ever looked at her the way Dustin Sutherland had, as if he saw her, not just the size of her body or the skill of her baking, but her. She shook the foolish thought away. Men like Dustin Sutherland did not court women like Amanda Grayson. That was simply the way of the world, and no amount of wishing could change it. Dustin returned the next morning, and the morning after that. Each day, he would linger over his breakfast, sharing stories of the cattle drives and asking Amanda about Cottonwood Springs. He learned that she had taken over the bakery after her mother died 3 years earlier, that her father had been lost in a mining accident when she was 12, that she lived alone in the rooms above the shop. Amanda, in turn, discovered that Dustin had left his home in Missouri at 18, that he had a gift for gentling horses that other men couldn't handle, that he could read and write better than most due to a mother who had been a schoolteacher before marrying his father. On the 5th morning, Dustin arrived to find Amanda struggling with a heavy flour sack. Without a word, he lifted it easily and carried it to where she indicated. You shouldn't have to manage these alone, he said, frowning at the stack of supplies in the corner. Amanda straightened, brushing flour from her hands. I manage fine, Mr. Sutherland. I've been doing so for years. I don't doubt it, but that doesn't mean you should have to. And after 5 days of breakfasts, I think you might call me Dustin. A smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Dustin then, and thank you for the help. Later that afternoon, Amanda was closing the shop when she heard a commotion outside. She stepped to the door to see a group of boys taunting a young Mexican girl, pulling at her braids and knocking the basket she carried out of her hands. Before Amanda could intervene, Dustin appeared from the direction of the livery stable. He didn't raise his voice, but something in his stance made the boys freeze. That's no way to treat a lady, he said, his voice carrying across the street to where Amanda stood. Pick up her things and apologize, or I'll have a word with your fathers about your manners. The boys scrambled to obey, muttering apologies as they helped the girl gather the scattered items. Dustin knelt to help, speaking to the girl in fluent Spanish that surprised Amanda. When everything was back in the basket, he pressed a coin into the girl's hand and sent her on her way with a kind smile. Only then did he notice Amanda watching. He crossed the street to her, removing his hat as he approached. Those boys needed a lesson in respect, he said simply. That was kind of you, Amanda replied. Most men wouldn't have bothered. My mother taught me that how you treat those who can't defend themselves shows your true character. He glanced at the bakery sign. You're closing up for the day. Amanda nodded. We close at 4. I need the evening hours to prepare dough for tomorrow. I was hoping I might convince you to show me around town a bit. I've been here almost a week, but I've seen little beyond the land office, the livery, and your bakery. Amanda stared at him, certain she had misunderstood. You want me to show you around? If you can spare the time, Dustin said, his expression earnest. I value your knowledge of the area. Amanda hesitated. Part of her wanted to accept, but years of experience had taught her caution. Men didn't seek her company unless they wanted something, usually her baking for an event, never her companionship. I suppose I could, she said finally. Let me just lock up. They walked the length of Cottonwood Springs, Amanda pointing out the church, the school, the small newspaper office, the doctor's home. Dustin listened attentively, asking questions about the town's history and its people. As they passed the mercantile, the same women who regularly tormented Amanda with their comments stood outside, watching with undisguised surprise. Miss Grayson, one called, introducing our newcomer to town, are you? Yes, Mrs. Harmon, Amanda replied evenly. Mr. Sutherland is interested in settling here. The women exchanged glances, and Amanda could read their thoughts as clearly as if they'd spoken aloud. What could a man like him possibly want with a woman like her? Dustin seemed oblivious to the undercurrents. Miss Grayson has been most helpful. I couldn't ask for a better guide. As they continued walking, Amanda felt the women's eyes boring into her back. You shouldn't be seen with me, she said quietly once they were out of earshot. Dustin stopped walking. Why would you say that? Amanda couldn't meet his eyes. People will talk. Let them, he said with a shrug. I've never much cared for others' opinions of my business. You don't understand. In a town like this, reputation matters. And is your reputation in question? He asked, his brow furrowed. No, but, Amanda struggled to find the words. I'm not the sort of woman men like you walk with. Understanding dawned in Dustin's eyes. Because of your size. Amanda flinched at the direct question. Yes. Dustin shook his head. Miss Grayson, Amanda, where I come from, a woman is judged by her character, her skills, and her heart. By those measures, you stand taller than anyone I've met in this town. The sincerity in his voice left Amanda speechless. No one had ever defended her so directly, so unapologetically. She didn't know how to respond, so she simply resumed walking, leading him toward the creek for which the town was named. As May turned to June, Dustin became a fixture at Grayson's bakery. He helped Amanda with deliveries, fixed the troublesome back door that never closed properly, and spent many evenings simply sitting in the kitchen, talking while she prepared for the next day. The townspeople noticed. Whispers followed them, speculation about what a handsome cowboy like Dustin Sutherland could possibly see in plump Amanda Grayson. Some suggested he was after her business, others that he was simply using her cooking skills while he established himself. Amanda heard the whispers but tried to ignore them. She treasured Dustin's friendship while guarding her heart against wanting more. She had seen how men looked at the slender, pretty girls in town. Eventually, Dustin would notice them too. One evening, as they sat on the small porch behind the bakery, watching fireflies rise from the grass, Dustin told her about the land he had decided to purchase. It's 15 miles northeast of town, he said, excitement coloring his voice. 200 acres with a creek running through it, good grazing land, and a stand of timber for building. The cabin's rough but solid. With work, it could be a fine home. It sounds perfect, Amanda said, genuinely happy for him. When will you move out there? Next week once the papers are signed, but I'll be in town regularly for supplies. He paused, and to see you. Amanda looked down at her hands. You don't need to say that. I say it because it's true. Dustin leaned forward in his chair. Amanda, these past weeks knowing you have been the best of my life. You've been a good friend, she said carefully. Is that all I am to you? A friend. Amanda stood abruptly, moving to the porch railing. What else could you be, Dustin? Look at me and then look at yourself. Dustin rose and came to stand beside her. I am looking at you. I see a woman of extraordinary skill and kindness. I see someone who has faced cruelty with dignity. I see beautiful brown eyes that light up when you laugh, though you don't laugh nearly enough. And you don't see this, Amanda gestured at her body, her voice catching. You don't see what everyone else in this town sees when they look at me. I see all of you, Dustin said quietly, and I admire all of you. He reached out, his hand hovering near her cheek, waiting for permission. When she didn't pull away, he gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. I never thought to find someone like you, he admitted. I came to Wyoming believing a man was better off alone. You've made me question everything I thought I knew. Before Amanda could respond, a crack of thunder split the air, and rain began to fall in heavy drops. They hurried inside, the moment broken but not forgotten. As Dustin prepared to leave, he turned at the door. Think about what I said, he told her. I'm not a man who speaks without meaning. After he left, Amanda sat alone in her kitchen, her mind whirling. Could Dustin truly care for her as a woman, not just a friend? And even if he did, what kind of future could they have in a town where she was constantly judged? The next morning, Amanda woke to find a small package on her doorstep. Inside was a hand-carved wooden spoon with her initials etched into the handle, and a note in Dustin's neat handwriting, for the best baker in Wyoming territory. I'll be back on Saturday. She traced the letters with her finger, a smile spreading across her face. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope. Saturday dawned clear and bright. Amanda found herself taking extra care with her appearance, pinning her hair in a more flattering style and choosing her newest dress, a deep blue calico that brought out the warmth in her complexion. She opened the bakery with butterflies in her stomach, anticipating Dustin's visit. By mid-morning, the shop was busier than usual. Amanda barely had time to think between customers. When the bell chimed again, she looked up expectantly, but instead of Dustin, she saw Elena Reed, the banker's daughter, widely considered the prettiest girl in Cottonwood Springs. Good morning, Miss Reed, Amanda said politely. What can I get for you today? Elena's smile didn't reach her eyes. I hear congratulations are in order, Amanda, though I must say you've kept your courtship very quiet. Amanda's hands stilled. I'm not sure what you mean. Why, your arrangement with Mr. Sutherland, of course. Everyone's talking about how he's building that ranch for the two of you. Elena leaned closer across the counter. Though between us, I'd be careful. Men sometimes make promises they don't intend to keep, especially to women who are eager for marriage. Heat flooded Amanda's face. There is no arrangement between Mr. Sutherland and myself. We're friends, nothing more. Oh, Elena's eyebrows rose. That's odd, because he was in Father's bank yesterday, discussing loans for expanding his ranch. He mentioned needing a larger house than originally planned because, and I quote, Miss Grayson deserves a proper home. Amanda's heart hammered in her chest. I'm sure you misunderstood. Perhaps, Elena said with a shrug. In any case, I'll take a loaf of sourdough and 2 of those currant scones. After Elena left, Amanda moved through the rest of the morning in a daze. Had Dustin really spoken of her that way? Was he making plans that included her without even discussing it with her first? By the time Dustin arrived shortly after noon, Amanda had worked herself into a state of confused anger. He entered with a smile that faltered when he saw her expression. Is something wrong? He asked. Amanda wiped her hands on her apron. Is it true you told Mr. Reed you're building a house for me? Dustin looked taken aback. Not exactly, no. I mentioned that I was planning for a larger home than the existing cabin, with the hope that someday it might be shared. With me, without asking me. Amanda, I wasn't presuming anything. I was planning for a possibility, a hope. She shook her head. People are talking, Dustin. They think I've trapped you somehow, that I'm desperate for marriage. Since when do you care what people think? Dustin asked. I've lived in this town my entire life. I have to face these people every day. You can't just ride in and upend everything without considering the consequences for me. Dustin's jaw tightened. That's not what I intended. What did you intend? Amanda demanded. To court the fat baker girl because no one else would, to make yourself look charitable, or did you just want someone to cook for you out on that lonely ranch? The moment the words left her mouth, Amanda regretted them. Hurt flashed across Dustin's face, quickly replaced by a careful blankness she had never seen from him. Is that what you think of me? He asked quietly, that I would court you out of pity or convenience? Amanda couldn't answer. Her throat felt tight with unshed tears. I see, Dustin said when she remained silent. I'll not trouble you further, Miss Grayson. I apologize for any distress I've caused." He turned and walked out, his back straight, his movements stiff with injured pride. Amanda made it through the rest of the day by sheer force of will. She served customers, cleaned the shop, and prepared dough with mechanical precision, all while her heart felt as though it were breaking into pieces. That night she cried herself to sleep, believing she had destroyed the most genuine connection she had ever known. The next 2 weeks passed in a gray blur. Dustin did not return to the bakery. Amanda heard through town gossip that he had moved to his ranch and was working from dawn to dusk, building fences and breaking horses. She told herself it was for the best. Dustin deserved someone who could believe in his affection without doubt, someone who wasn't damaged by years of mockery and judgment. But the bakery seemed emptier without him, the days longer, the nights lonelier. On a sweltering July afternoon, Amanda was just closing the shop when she heard horses galloping down the main street. She looked out to see 3 riders pulling up in front of the doctor's house, one man slumped in the saddle, blood staining his shirt. Her heart stopped when she recognized Dustin's sandy hair. She rushed outside as the men carefully helped him down from his horse. "What happened?" she demanded. One of the men, weathered and gray-bearded, answered. "Fence post snapped while he was stretching wire. The broken end caught him in the side. He's lost a lot of blood." Amanda followed them into the doctor's house, her fear for Dustin overwhelming any hesitation. Dr. Miller directed them to place Dustin on the examination table and quickly assess the wound. "It's deep, but it hasn't pierced any vital organs from what I can tell," he said. "He'll need stitching and time to recover. He's weak from blood loss, though." "I can nurse him," Amanda said without thinking. "I have rooms above the bakery where he can rest." The doctor looked at her with surprise. "This isn't a simple illness, Miss Grayson. The wound will need regular cleaning to prevent infection, and he'll require constant care for several days." "I took care of my mother through her final illness," Amanda said firmly. "I'm not squeamish and I'm stronger than I look." "Doctor." Miller studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Very well, let me stitch him up, and then we'll move him to your place. It would be better than having him jostled all the way back to his ranch." While the doctor worked, Amanda prepared the spare bedroom above her shop. She put clean sheets on the bed, set out basins and cloths, and made sure there was fresh water. By the time the men carried Dustin up the stairs on a makeshift stretcher, she was ready. Dustin was pale and unconscious, his breathing shallow. Dr. Miller gave Amanda detailed instructions for cleaning the wound, changing bandages, and what signs of infection to watch for. "I'll check on him tomorrow," the doctor said as he prepared to leave. "If he develops a fever or the wound looks inflamed, send for me immediately." "I will," Amanda promised. Left alone with Dustin, Amanda pulled a chair to his bedside and settled in for what she knew would be a long night. She bathed his face with a cool cloth, willing him to open his eyes to speak to her again. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was afraid to believe you could truly care for me. I've spent so long protecting myself that I pushed away the one person who saw me clearly." Shortly after midnight, Dustin stirred, his eyelids fluttering open. He looked confused until his gaze focused on Amanda. "Am I dreaming?" he asked, his voice raspy. "No," she said, blinking back tears of relief. "You're in my spare room. You were injured and the doctor stitched you up. You need to rest and heal." Dustin looked around the simple room. "You're home." Amanda nodded. "It seemed better than taking you all the way back to your ranch." He was silent for a moment, then asked, "Why are you helping me after what I said?" "After what you said," Amanda echoed. "Dustin, I was the one who said terrible things. I accused you of courting me out of pity or convenience. I pushed you away because I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" Amanda took a deep breath, afraid that what you felt wasn't real. That eventually you would see me as everyone else does and regret your choice. Dustin's hand found hers, his grip weak but determined. "Amanda Grayson, I have never seen you as anything but extraordinary. From the first morning I walked into your bakery, I saw a woman of beauty, strength, and remarkable talent. I didn't court you despite how you look. I'm drawn to all of you, exactly as you are." Tears spilled down Amanda's cheeks. "I've spent my whole life believing no one could want me." "Then believe me now," Dustin said. "I want you. I want your laughter and your courage and your remarkable baking. I want to build a life with you if you'll have me." Amanda leaned forward and gently pressed her lips to his. "Rest now," she whispered. "We have time to talk when you're stronger." Over the next week, Amanda divided her time between caring for Dustin and running her bakery. She opened later and closed earlier, leaving the shop in the capable hands of Rosa Diaz, the Mexican girl Dustin had defended, who proved to be a quick learner and reliable helper. As Dustin regained his strength, they talked for hours. He told her of his plans for the ranch, of the house he hoped to build, large enough for a family. Amanda shared her dreams of expanding the bakery, of creating a place where people could gather and enjoy her food. "Why can't we have both?" Dustin asked one evening as they sat by the window, watching the sunset. "Your bakery in town, our home on the ranch. I could bring you to the shop each morning I come to town for supplies, and home again in the evenings." "You would do that?" "Amanda, I would move mountains for you if I could. A daily ride to town is nothing." The town, meanwhile, buzzed with gossip about Amanda nursing the handsome rancher back to health. Some speculated that it was a romantic gesture, while others insisted it was simply Christian charity. When Dustin was finally well enough to walk downstairs, he insisted on sitting in the bakery while Amanda worked. He greeted customers, charmed the elderly women who came for their daily bread, and made it clear to everyone that he was there by choice, not necessity. Elena Reed came in one afternoon, her curiosity evident. "Mr. Sutherland, how good to see you recovered. We were all so concerned." "Miss Grayson has been an angel of mercy," Dustin replied, his admiration unmistakable. "I owe her my life." "How fortunate for you both," Elena said with a tight smile. "Will you be returning to your ranch soon?" "Tomorrow," Dustin confirmed, "but I'll be back regularly. I have important business in town." "Oh, with the bank?" "No," Dustin said, his eyes finding Amanda across the shop. "With the baker." That evening, as Amanda helped Dustin pack the few belongings he had brought to her home, he suddenly took her hands in his. "I'm not good with words," he said. "Out on the trail, a man learns to speak plainly or not at all. So I'll speak plain now. I love you, Amanda Grayson. I love your kindness and your courage and the way you hum when you're kneading dough. I love how you stand straight despite what others say, how you've built this business on your own, how you care for people who need it." Amanda's heart seemed to stop and then race forward. "I love you too," she whispered. "I think I have since you defended that little girl in the street." "Then marry me," Dustin said. "Not tomorrow or next week, but when you're ready, when you believe in your bones that this is real and lasting." Amanda searched his face, looking for any hint of doubt or hesitation. She found only certainty and love. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I'll marry you, Dustin Sutherland." The news of their engagement spread through Cottonwood Springs like wildfire. Some congratulated them sincerely, others with barely concealed surprise or disapproval. Amanda found she cared less than she expected about the opinions of those who had judged her for so long. True to his word, Dustin rode into town every few days. He would spend time at the bakery, helping with heavy lifting or simply sitting with Amanda during quiet moments. On Sundays, they attended church together, ignoring the stares and whispers. In late August, Amanda closed the bakery for a day and rode out to see Dustin's ranch for the first time. The main cabin was small but sturdy, with a new addition under construction that would double its size. A vegetable garden was already producing, and a pen near the barn held a cow with a calf at her side. "For fresh milk and butter," Dustin explained. "I know how important good ingredients are to your baking." He showed her the creek where clear water bubbled over smooth stones, the meadow where wildflowers grew in profusion, the grove of trees where he planned to build a larger house once they had saved enough. "What do you think?" he asked, a hint of nervousness in his voice. "Could you be happy here?" Amanda looked around at the land he was shaping with his own hands, at the care he had taken to create a place where she would feel welcome and valued. "I already am," she said. They were married in October, when the cottonwood trees had turned golden and the air held the first hint of winter. The ceremony was small, held in the church with only a few friends in attendance. Amanda wore a dress of deep burgundy silk that she had ordered from Denver, and Dustin stood tall in a new black suit, his eyes never leaving her face as they spoke their vows. The townspeople who had mocked Amanda for years watched in amazement as Dustin kissed his bride with unmistakable adoration. They watched as he lifted her into his wagon, decorated with ribbons and flowers for the occasion, and drove her to their ranch to begin their life together. In the years that followed, Grayson's bakery remained a fixture in Cottonwood Springs, though it was open only 3 days a week now. Amanda split her time between town and ranch, creating a rhythm that allowed her to maintain her business while building a home with Dustin. The ranch prospered under their combined efforts. Dustin's skill with horses and cattle brought them steady income, while Amanda's business sense and careful management of their resources allowed them to expand faster than Dustin had thought possible. Within 5 years, they had built the larger house Dustin had promised, with a kitchen spacious enough for Amanda to experiment with new recipes to her heart's content. Children came: first a son with Dustin's blue eyes and determined chin, then twin daughters who inherited Amanda's talent for baking and their father's love of horses. The family became known throughout the county for their hospitality and the warmth of their home. On their 10th anniversary, Dustin presented Amanda with a handcrafted rocking chair sized perfectly for her comfort. "For when we're old and gray," he told her, "and watching our grandchildren play in the yard." Amanda smiled, thinking of the journey that had brought them here, from a lonely baker convinced of her unworthiness to a woman secure in her husband's love and her own value. "I never thought I would have this," she admitted, running her hand along the smooth wood of the chair. "I never thought I wanted it," Dustin replied. "I believed a man was safer alone, that love was a weakness. You taught me it's the greatest strength a person can possess." As the sun set behind the mountains, casting long shadows across their land, Amanda looked at the life they had built together, the home filled with laughter, the business that had grown to include a small cafe beside the original bakery, the respect they had earned through hard work and integrity. The whispers had long since faded. Now when people spoke of Amanda Grayson Sutherland, they mentioned her renowned baking, her thriving business, her handsome husband who still looked at her with adoration after a decade of marriage. Dustin pulled her close, his arms as strong and sure as they had been the day he had first helped her with a sack of flour. "Regrets?" he asked, a question he posed every anniversary. Amanda turned in his embrace, looking up at the face she knew better than her own. "Not one," she answered, as she always did. "Not a single one." And in the gathering twilight, surrounded by the fruits of their shared labor and bound by a love that had defied expectation, Amanda knew that she had found what she had never dared to seek, a man who saw not just what she was, but all she could be, who had helped her become the woman she was always meant to be. The woman worthy of love.